あれこれ
誰かが歌っ
あれは
誰ドラゴン
So, one of the two big JRPG releases this month is Shining Resonance Refrain. This is a PlayStation 4 remaster of a PlayStation 3 game that we never actually got in the West. It was never released in English in the initial case. So, we're actually getting the remaster, which has all the DLC and so on included. Not that we know what was DLC or what was the original content, I guess. We're getting the full package without playing the original, which is good. This is actually a really good JRPG, and SEGA, the publisher, took a risk, I guess, deciding to try and localize this series again. I hope it pays off, because based on this one, the series is doing pretty well for itself, and we've got a lot to look forward to in the years ahead, as long as they keep localizing these. So what is Shining Resonance actually? Well, it's an action JRPG series that will be most familiar to anybody who's played the Tales games from Bandai Namco. And you probably played one of those if you're a fan of JRPGs. Bandai's never actually stopped localizing those into the West, so there's an awful lot of them, and they've been around and popular and well regarded for quite a while. So if you're a fan of JRPGs, it's probably a safe bet that you've played one of those, and for that reason, Shining Resonance will be fairly familiar to you, not only because it has that kind of open or circular arena that you've got freedom of movement around during combat, but also the way that the skills work, the way that the character AI works, the way that enemies behave. All of that kind of stuff is very similar to the Tales series, and that's a good thing, because those games are popular for a reason and they're well regarded for a reason. The combat system is fluid and enjoyable and all that kind of stuff, and Shining Resonance won't get any rewards, I guess, or awards, more to use the right English. They won't get any awards for being a classic, or innovative anyway, but it does a very clean battle system, which is good, which allows you to then just enjoy the world and the narrative and all that kind of stuff, which is, for me anyway, as a JRPG fan, that is what I come to these games for. I just want a combat system that's enjoyable enough, and as long as it is, I can then focus on the story and the characters, and as long as I like them, then I've had a good time. And I do like the characters and the story for this one, which I'll get onto in a second. The one other thing I did want to mention about the combat system is that it can be difficult. Not so much the common enemies, but boss battles can be really brutal if you don't really understand the combat system and take time to learn its ins and outs and learn how to use the really powerful special abilities. So just putting that out there in the outset, if you're not that familiar with JRPGs and you're used to them being a little bit easier as they have been over the last generation, this one might put you off a little bit because of that boss difficulty. It can be very difficult. But like I said, I don't come to JRPGs for the combat or the gameplay as such. I come for the stories and the character, and as long as I like those stories and character, I'm generally pretty happy to put up with a combat system that tests me or that I find difficult. And I certainly found that to be the case with Shining Resonance. I really enjoyed the characters and the plot. Nothing is to stand out in terms of it doesn't break any boundaries, and it's not telling some kind of really meaningful story, but it's really enjoyable, a kind of classic JRPG tale. You play as a team of heroes centered around this fella here on the screen in front of you. He has the ability to turn into an elder dragon, so he's actually got the spirit of one of the most powerful dragons in the world's history inside him, and what you're seeing right here in front of you now is him turning into that dragon, which he can do for short periods of time, which obviously gives him a huge power boost. And as he is such a powerful individual, he finds himself in the middle of a political conflict between a evil empire, effectively, and another empire that is much weaker but stands up for, you know, the weak and innocent and all of that. So it's that kind of very traditional JRPG story. He obviously finds himself, well, he's got the option of going to either side. He decides to fight on the side of goodness and all of that and make friends with those nice characters, including a princess and some magic users and all that kind of stuff. So he joins that side, and then they go about doing good things for people and also fighting the Empire whenever they come across them. And like I said, it's a very classical kind of JRPG story. It's nothing that you wouldn't have seen before in plenty of other JRPGs. But if you enjoy the kind of classical JRPG, you'll actually feel a little bit nostalgic for it. I say that because while this game actually looks the part and certainly looks, you know, of an equivalent quality to the kind of budget JRPGs that have come out on the PlayStation 4 lifestyle, like the Atelier series or Idea Factory's output, while it looks the part, the game definitely feels like it's that kind of old school JRPG. It almost feels like if I was to play it on the PS3, I'd be saying this feels like it's telling the PlayStation 2 JRPG kind of story, because it's at that point. And while that might sound like it's a criticism, I guess, to some people, I will say that to me that's a good thing. You know, it's nice to have a very simple JRPG that doesn't try to push boundaries, that just tries to be, a homage to the way that the stories of the JRPG genre has been told over the years. It's nice to have one of those kinds of games, and this certainly fills that role. And like I said, in addition to the game having a decent traditional story, it also has a great sense of character about it. I really liked almost all the characters I came across in the game, villain and good guy. And one of the reasons is that the game really does give you plenty of time to get to know the characters. It has a full relationship system built into it, where whenever you have a rest moment within the plot, you have a chance to interact with characters, develop bonds with them, learn who they are and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously harkens back to the likes of Persona and those kinds of games. There's something of a sense of that in this one as well. It's not quite as well developed as in the Persona game, probably closer, I guess, to a Fire Emblem, one of the more recent Fire Emblem titles, but it does a really good job of giving you a sense of character and letting you get to know these characters, develop your favourites, and really get to start to care about them. Which brings me to my final point about why I really enjoyed this game. It's the actual character design itself. One of the Shining series' greatest strengths is its character artist, who is a man by the name of Tony Taka. Now, Tony Taka is, he started out his career doing R18 kind of lewd game art and character design, and then moved to more legitimate spaces, I guess, with the Shining series and whatever. But he's always had that kind of pin-up style, and I would say that he's probably up there with Tsunako as the kind of the premier Japanese pin-up anime artist, and his character designs are always gorgeous, and they're always they're really interesting, they're full of personality, they're bright, they're vibrant, and very enjoyable. So that obviously helps in terms of making you really connect with the characters in the game, because yeah, they're colourful, they're a colourful bunch, they're really enjoyable. Tony Taka has also obviously done a lot of work outside of the Shining series. He's done some of my favourite designs of Hatsune Miku and other Vocaloid characters, for example. I really like a couple of figures that I've got of the Krypton Vocaloids he did, and he's got such a great sense of style and building character through his designs, and it's great that people in the West, or especially Japanese and JRPG fans, get a chance to experience his art again and see it in action, because I think he's probably one of the more underrated anime artists in Japan, at least as far as the West goes, because we haven't actually had a chance to see much of his art in action in recent years. So once again, I'm really glad that Sega took the risk and localized this game, and I've got a full review of it going up on digitallydownloaded.net, but definitely give it a go if you're a fan of the JRPG series, and thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next video.